This video is actually going to be pretty heavy for me because I go into the entire backstory and I take you through how I got here from almost becoming homeless to now being financially stable and actually retiring my parents. So this story is it's pretty personal, and I touch on some pretty serious topics like fraud and financial struggles, so viewer discretion is advised. To understand me, you need to know that in life you achieve great things out of either inspiration or desperation, and for me it was definitely the latter. And if I can inspire another person to not give up and face reality as it comes, then I know I'm doing the right thing. We go back in time to 2020. This was the year when my family went through a massive financial fraud, which is a topic for another video. Before this, I grew up in a relatively upper middle class family in Mumbai, and I never really had to struggle for anything. You could call me a spoiled kid, to be honest, because whatever I wanted, I could just ask my dad and I used to get it. And as a result, I never knew how to struggle. I didn't even think much of how I could make money, build a better physique, or anything, to be honest. I had great friends who I loved along with a girlfriend, and life was genuinely good. I was a normal kid in the 11th grade, but soon all of this came crashing down. One night I heard my parents arguing in another room, and I found out soon that we were heavily, and I mean really heavily, leveraged into a pyramid scheme. This came to me as a shock, and I was not prepared for this. It forced me to start growing up pretty fast. This obviously forced me to start thinking of things I never used to think of, like how do I start making money? How do I get out of this place? And you could say that I needed to start growing up pretty fast after that. I got the confirmation one day after my mom came home, and she just hugged me and started crying, and yeah, that was it. That's all I needed to know, that we had lost almost everything we had. I guess you could say that it took a little bit of my childhood away from me in a single moment. My mother sold her jewelry for less than the market rate. We were running on funds that were slowly dwindling with no one to really bail us out. In other words, we were royally doomed. To make matters worse, COVID hit India in February, and in March, lockdown started. We were stuck in a rented flat in Bandra and had to pay for the agreement, and that was the last of our funds. Next, we had to sell the only asset we had, which was a flat in Pune. 28th of August, I caught the virus, and because I was very unfit and unhealthy, my parents panicked and put me in a hospital. And that was it. That was the final straw, and I had enough. I knew I had to do something, and I knew that the clock was ticking, because mind you, my parents didn't have any source of income. I needed to do something fast. Like many of you watching this, I had no idea where to begin. I started watching all the YouTubers you watch, and I got into self-improvement. I remember Hamza having a big influence on me at this stage, and as any man does, my first step was to look at myself in the mirror and face reality. I was fat and ugly. That's where I began. I started a hard cut in fancy words, but to be honest with you, I was just starving myself. With this, I started going to the gym and I started trying to build some muscle. Next, I needed money. I wanted to ease the financial struggle of my parents, as I could see them struggle every day, but there was very little hope. But I couldn't give up. I mean, what are the other options I have? I had to look for every opportunity possible. I tried dropshipping several times. I failed. I created a dog walking service business with a friend, but we just couldn't get enough customers. At none of these moments did I feel sorry for myself, as I knew I was privileged because I had a roof over my head. Now, because I was obsessed with fitness at the time, I used to follow a bunch of pages on Instagram that were posting reels. One of them was called HXSTLER. It was like an abbreviation for like hustler. This was relatively new, since traditionally theme pages on Instagram never had reels as a content format. It didn't exist. That page skyrocketed to 40,000 followers, and I knew I had to replicate that. I didn't know how I was going to make money from it, but I knew that it couldn't be so tough. I grew a theme page called HQSTLER. I know, that's very original of me, and I basically copied the same thing that the other dude was doing, and then I grew it to 40,000 followers, and I got an offer to sell it. That's how I made my first $1,000 online in July of 2021. This was the greatest feeling ever, since I felt like I broke through a wall. It opened my eyes to the fact that yes, you can actually make money online, and that too from India. A quick lesson for you to take away from this is that you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just look at what's doing well and take some inspiration from it. But we have a long way to go. Before things got better, they got worse. Due to gentrification and the high living costs house in Mumbai, we had to move to Kolkata and I didn't enjoy it there. I repeated the 11th grade, I lost all my friends and I had to start a new life, but I always remained very practical about all of this stuff. I grew several more fitness theme pages and this time a bunch of them to over 100,000 followers alongside school. There was very little competition in this niche, so all the players started to talk to each other and get to know each other better. I randomly messaged another page called DXMINATE, Dominate, and this turned out to be really important in my story. That dude running that page somehow lived in Kolkata and was just a year older than me. We met in real life and we grew closer and closer, and his name is Iman and he's my best friend now. One day I had an epiphany. If I could grow multiple fitness theme pages over 100k, why couldn't I grow my own personal fitness page? I knew the type of content that performs and I knew that maybe I can become like a sponsored athlete or something. After 11th grade we moved to Pune as I just couldn't adjust to my life in Kolkata. I had a new life again, and with some of the theme page money I earned, I decided to buy myself this camera. I took content creation pretty seriously and I ended up growing my page to 8,000 followers. At the same time, our finances kept dwindling down, and after my parents enrolled me in a fancy private school because they genuinely believed that education was going to be my way out, we had less than 5 months of runway left. My mum was on the verge of getting herself a 35,000 rupee job as a makeup artist, but I got a phone call. It was Iman. He called me to tell me that he just got himself a job with Iman Gadzhi and that he was earning 1.2 lakhs a month. I didn't even know who Iman was, but now I wanted to know. He said that they're building some content redistribution team that takes Iman's long form videos and chops them up into shorts. And I knew that very few people understood short form content better than me at that time. With all that confidence, I applied to work at Career Agency, now Educate, but no response. I applied again. Nothing. Guess they say the third time's the charm for a reason, and I finally landed an interview. And that was all I needed. I worked my ass off and came up with ideas that could increase my earning potential within the company, and soon I found myself making over 4 lakhs a month. I valued my own time a lot and I knew that I had to hire some help to even continue to go to school. That's when I got my first employee, and that turned to 4 pretty quickly. I vividly remember myself sitting in an empty classroom because I had no friends, searching up how much it's gonna cost for me to go to college, and I knew that I couldn't afford it. But that changes soon. The work we did for Iman was crazy and we got him over 1 billion views across his social media channels, and I was following myself from some of them, so I had prospects reaching out. Now, here's the problem with all of this. At Career Agency, now Educate, we basically had zero job security. Some of the friends I made at work were fired without notice, and I knew that I'm probably no different. I could be fired anytime and I couldn't risk that when my whole family was dependent on it. I had to diversify my sources of income. I unethically took on more clients while working a full-time job. I'm not proud of it, but I had to do what I had to do, and if I had to go back in time, I would probably not change a thing. I soon found myself making more than $10,000 in profit with the agency I created. At this time, I stopped going to school to completely focus on business, and I only went during examinations. I saw no real merit in going to college anymore. I couldn't imagine sitting in a classroom where I had to wait for professors to show up after spending lakhs of my own money. My parents were and are super proud, but even like today, they still insist that Subha, go get a degree, what are you doing? I managed to become the man of the house at 18. I found other agency owners too, some in India, some abroad. One of them was Arthur. He ran a B2B SaaS business and he was way more knowledgeable than I was. I knew that I had to work with him, and he was also running a content agency on the side. We decided to merge into one agency, now Atomic Growth, and we're doing over 20,000 in MRR. My goal for 2024 is to scale, and I'm super hopeful because we have some systems getting us inbound leads, and I'm sure that we have product market fit. Along with that, I hope to share all my learnings throughout the years with you so that I can potentially help the same 16-year-old kid. I've been in the game for over a year now, and I'm confident in my ability to lose it all today and build it back up tomorrow. That's been the greatest gift I've received from the path of entrepreneurship, and I believe that's truly what I was looking for when I quit working at Career Agency. Fortunately, I do not have financial struggles anymore, and even though I acknowledge that responsibilities came at a younger age for me, I know that there are people who've had it way worse than I did, and I'm super grateful for how things turned out. If you've made it until the end, there's just one takeaway. Start. start with anything. Doors open themselves up if you keep looking for them. My story is essentially just a bunch of random sequences joining together. When you start, it's hard to see how the dots will connect. In all honesty, the dots only connect when you look backwards. Don't lose hope in the darkest of times and face reality as it comes. You're all you have, and I wish you all the best.